Hello guys, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to another class of French Revolution. Yes. Okay, students, in the previous class we discussed about the most important part of this chapter where Louis XVI is accepted. Louis XVI accepted National Assembly and even to accepted that from now onwards his power will be checked by the National Assembly. Yes, and today we are going to continue the next part of this chapter, that is France abolishes monarchy and becomes a republic. Yes, France abolishes monarchy and becomes a republic. Okay, so here, as I told you in the previous class, Louis XVI, yes, namely, he signed for the constitution. Yes, namely, he signed for the constitution, but he entered into an secret. Yes, later. The most important part that during the 1789, yes, during the 1789, the France was facing a critical situation. France situation was very worst. Yes, because the Louis XVI had signed for the Constitution or National Assembly. Yes, Louis XVI had signed the Constitution or National Assembly, but he entered into a secret negotiation with the King of Prussia. He entered into a secret negotiation with a king of Prussia. As I told you in the previous class, he pretended, yes, he pretended like accept the constitution. But he had signed for the constitution and entered into a secret negotiation with the king of Prussia. Yes, see, when he entered into secret negotiation with the king of Prussia, the rulers of the neighboring countries, yes, the rulers of the neighboring countries were worried about the development taking place in France. Yes, the development taking place in France, and they made a plan. Yes, who? The rulers of neighboring countries. Yes, they made a plan and set up. Yes, they made a plan to set up, put down the events. Yes, put down the events that were taking place in France. That were taking in France during 1789. But the National Assembly was very careful before this could happen. Yes, before this could happen, the National Assembly voted. Yes, the National Assembly voted. Voted means decided. Yes, the National Assembly decided on April April 1792. Yes, on April 1792, declared a war against Prussia and Austria. Prussia and Austria. Yes. So here, what happened? Louis XVI had signed for the secret negotiation with the King of Prussia. Yes, but before this could happen, the National Assembly decided to declare a war against the King of Prussia and Austria in April 1792. Yes, finally they declared a war against Prussia and Austria. And later, when they declared a war against Prussia and Austria, thousands of the volunteers thronged on the street. Yes, thousands of the volunteers thronged on the street and they began to join the army. Yes, they began to join the what? Began to join the army, and later they began to sing a patriotic song. Yes, a patriotic song called Mercedes, and this patriotic song was composed by a famous poet named Roget D. Roget D. Isley. Yes, the Mercedes song, which was composed by a famous poet named Roget D. Isley. So here the peoples, yes, they began to sing which song? Mercedes, which was composed by Roget D. Isley. Yes, and later the now, yes, Mercedes is a national anthem of France. Is a national anthem of France. Yes, and even this revolutionary war brought many losses and economic difficulties to the people. Economic difficulties to whom? To the people, because while the men were away to fight in the war field, the women were cope up with the task or with the new tasks and living and looking after the children's. And this was a major task for the home task for the women's, because the men were away for fighting in the war field. So that reason it was a good task, or it was a major task for the home for the women's. And during this time, yes, a major political clubs or the political clubs played an important role. Yes, and the important political club, yes, the important political club was that of the important political club was Jacobin Club. Yes, Jacobin Club. The important political club which played an important role, that is Jacobin Club, which got its name, yes, which got its name by the former, yes, by the former convent Saint Jacob in Paris. Saint Jacob in Paris. Yes, so it got its name. And even during this time, women too were active participants. Women too were active participants in the Jacobin Club. Yes, and say this Jacobin Club mainly belongs to an lesser section of the society. Yes, the Jacobin Club members or the Jacobin Club members mainly belongs to the less prosperous section of the society. They included shopkeepers. Yes, they included shopkeepers, artisans. They included shopkeepers, artisans, shoemakers. Yes, shoemakers, pastry cooks, shoemaker, pastry. Then watch repairs, yes, watch repairs, and printers as well as servants and daily wages workers. Yes, the Jacobin Club members mainly belongs to an less prosperous sections of the society, where they include shopkeepers, artisans, printers, shoemakers, pastry cooks, watch repairers, yes, then servants and as well as wage workers. Yes, and apart from this, a large group of Jacobins, a large group of Jacobins, they decided to wear a long striped trouser. A long striped trouser. They decided to wear a long striped trouser. See, this is a kind of long trouser, where a large group of Jacobin began to decide to wear trouser. And later, these Jacobin members, yes, later these Jacobins came to be known as a what? Came to be known as a sans-culottes. They came to be known as a what? They came to be known as a sans-culottes. They came to be known as a sans-culottes. Then what is meant by the sans-culottes? Yes, the literally meaning of sans-culottes, those without knee breeches, means it shows that they decided to wear a long striped trouser. And in addition, yes, the sans-culottes men's were worn red cap, which it symbolizes liberty. Which it symbolizes liberty. Yes, red cap. Yes, red cap, which it symbolizes the what? Symbolizes the liberty. Yes. So this is what the most important, only given for the men's but not to the women's. Means women's were not allowed to do so. Means they gave importance to the home only to the men's, because by the early, yes, or initially we started discussing that the men were considered as a what? Active citizens. Yes, the active citizens, and women were considered as a passive. Yes, the women were considered as a passive citizens. So that here the sans-culottes means literally meaning those without knee breeches, and the men were allowed to wear the red cap, and which it symbolizes the what? Liberty, and women were not allowed to do so. Yes, and so next on 10th August, yes, on 10th August, yes, on 10th August, yes, on 10th August, the National Assembly stormed into the palace. Stormed into the palace of Tuileries. They stormed into the what? They stormed into the palace of Tuileries. They stormed into the palace of Tuileries. Yes, and they massacred the king's guard and held the king himself as a hostage for 7 hours. Yes, the king himself hostage for 7 hours. Yes, or he hosted himself. And later, the National Assembly the whom imprisoned the royal family. Yes, the National Assembly decided to imprison the whom? Decided to imprison the royal family, and later they conducted an election. Yes, later they conducted the election, and now, yes, now means during those days, yes, and now all the men 21 years and above, yes, 21 years and above, regardless of wealth, yes, regardless of wealth, they got a right to vote. Yes, they got a right to vote. But earlier, the voting system in the past was conducted according to the principle each estate had a one vote. But the member of the third estate demanded that now the election conducted by the assembly as a whole, but every member should have a vote. Yes. So here finally they got a right to vote when 1792 on 10th August. Yes. And later what happened when they declared a vote for the active citizens, and who are called active citizens? Men's. Yes, men's are called active citizens and women's are called as a passive citizens. And later the newly elected assembly was called a meeting or convention. On 21st, yes, on 21st September 1792. Yes, on 21st September 1792, it abolishes the monarchy. Yes, abolishes the monarchy. It abolishes the monarchy and declared France as a what? Republic. Yes. So here on 21st September 1792, it abolishes the monarchy and declared France as a republic. And what is republic? Republic is a form of a government where it is elected by the whom? It is elected by the people. Yes, it is elected by the whom? It is elected by the people. And later, what happened? Okay, so here finally Louis XVI, yes, 16th. So we'll write in this way. Yes. So finally Louis XVI sentenced to an death. Sentenced to an death by court. Yes. Louis XVI finally sentenced to an death by court due to the treason. Yes, or due to the treason of a country. Yes. On 21st January. On 21st January 1793, Louis XVI was publicly executed. Yes, Louis XVI was publicly executed at the place of de la Concord. At the place of de la Concord. He was publicly executed at the de la Concord. Yes, and later his princess Mary Antoinette also, she too passed away in the memory of whom? In the memory of Louis XVI, or in the name of Louis XVI. Yes. So finally Louis XVI has signed the constitution, and finally he was sentenced to an death by the court due to on 21st January 1793, he was publicly executed at the place of De La Concord. Yes, so this is how the France abolishes monarchy and established or becomes a republic. Yes, so it was started from where and when? From 14th July 1789, but finally 1792. Yes, on 21st September. 21st September. Yes, 1792. Okay, the next, coming to the point of reign of terror. Yes, reign of terror. Okay, the reign of terror. The period between 1793 to 94. Keep this date in your mind. This is the most important date. The period between, yes, the period between 1793 to 94 is referred as a what? Is referred as a reign of terror. Why it was referred as a reign of terror? Yes, because, okay, the one more point here. The member of the Jacobin Club, yes, the member of the Jacobin Club was Maximilien Robespierre. Maximilien Robespierre. Yes, the member of Jacobin Club was Maximilien Robespierre. The member of the Jacobin Club was Maximilien Robespierre. Okay, see here, the period between 1793 to 94 referred as a reign of terror because the leader of Jacobin Club, yes, the leader of Jacobin Club, Maximilien Robespierre, followed the severe policy of, yes, the severe policy of control and punishment. Yes, severe control and punishment method. So that reason it was called as a terror. Yes, why it is called as a reign of terror? Because the Maximilien Robespierre followed the severe policy of control and punishment method. And see here, all those whom he saw as a, yes, all those whom he saw as a being enemies of republic, being enemies of republic, like clergy or such as clergy, nobles, yes, clergy, nobles, members of the political party, yes, members of the other political parties, and even members of his own political party, those who did not agree, yes, those who did not agree with his methods, they were arrested, then imprisoned, then later sent to the guillotine. Yes, sent to the guillotine. See, this point is the most important because this question might be asked in the examination. So I will ask this question. Yes. Okay. See here, why it is called as a reign of terror? Because the Robespierre followed the severe policy and severe policy of punishment and control method, as those whom he saw being enemies of a republic, the nobles, members of the other political parties, and even the members of his own political party. Yes, the members of his own political party, those who did not agree with his methods, they were arrested, imprisoned, and sent to the guillotine. Yes, and sent to the where? And see, if the court found, yes, if the court found guilty, then they were guillotined. Then what is this guillotine? Actually, I'm using guillotine continuously. Then what is this guillotine? Okay. See, guillotine is a device. Yes, for 1 mark. We may ask it for 1 mark. Yes, so keep in your mind that guillotine means right now terrorist. Guillotine is a device. Guillotine is a device consisting of two poles. Yes, guillotine is a device consisting of two poles, a blade. Yes, two poles, a blade with which a person is beheaded. Yes, with which a person is beheaded. It is called an what? It is called an guillotine. Is a kind of device. Yes, so guillotine is a device consisting of two poles and a blade. Two poles and a blade with which a person is beheaded is called a guillotine. And later this guillotine renamed as a, yes, Dr. Guillotine, who invented it. Yes, and see, during this time, the Maximilian Robespierre, yes, the Maximilian Robespierre forced the peasants to supply their goods to the cities. Yes, peasants were forced to supply their goods to the cities and sell it at a price fixed by the government. Yes, sell it at a price fixed by the government. But actually, who grown or who harvested the crops? Farmers. Then who has a right to fix the price of goods or food grains? Farmers. But here what happened? The Robespierre or the Maximilian Robespierre forced the peasants to supply their goods to the cities and sell it at a price fixed by the government. And even they forced not to use the white flour, which was very costly, a loaf of bread. Yes, they said not to use. They said to the peasants to forbidden use of white flour. And even the most important is here, it is required. Yes, it is required for all the equality of bread or pain d'égalité. Pain d'égalité means equality of bread. Not only instead of traditional monsieurs means sir, madame means madam, and citoyens means citizens of France. Yes, so instead of traditional monsieurs, madame, and citoyens, all the people required equality of bread to fulfill their hunger. Yes, so this is what the Maximilian Robespierre said or conducted during his rule. Yes, and the most important, later these churches were shut down. Yes, the churches were shut down and their buildings were converted into barracks or offices. And finally, what happened here? The Robespierre persuaded his policies. In a such a way or relentlessly means mercilessly. Yes, relentlessly or mercilessly, even the supporter or the member of his political party, yes, they demanded moderation. See, when they began to make a moderation, finally, yes, Maximilian Robespierre also sentenced to an death by court, because he was forcing the peasants to sell their goods. Yes, sell their goods in the cities at a price fixed by the government. So that reason, finally, the Maximilian Robespierre, Robespierre also convicted or sentenced by an court on July Yes, 1794, 1794, and he was arrested. And on the next day, he was sent to the where? Sent to the guillotine. So the most important is here, the guillotine device was invented during his period or his rule itself, but he himself guillotined because of his tyrannical administration or the maladministration of whom? Of the Maximilian Robespierre. Yes, this is what the reign of terror. Okay. Yes, France abolishes. Okay, clear, understood everyone? So today we discussed France abolishes the monarchy and becomes a what? Becomes a republic. Just yes. How? So during 1789, yes, during 1789, what happened? The situation in France was very critical or very worse because, as I told you that, namely he signed for the constitution. Who? Louis XVI. But what happened? He pretended like a signer. Later, he entered into a secret negotiation with the whom? King of Russia. And when he entered into a secret negotiation, the rulers of the neighboring countries were worried. Yes, why they worried? Because they make attack on us any time. Yes, so that reason the rulers of the neighboring countries they set up a plan or they made a plan to put down the events that were taking place in France. Yes, but before this could happen, what happened? The National Assembly voted or decided yes on April 1792. They declared war against the home Prussia and Austria. Yes, Prussia and Austria. Clear? Then when they declared a war against the Prussia and Austria, thousands of the volunteers, yes, they began to join the army or they entered into the army and they began to sing a patriotic song called Marseillaise. Yes, Marseillaise. And this Marseillaise song was composed by the whom? By the Roget D. Isley. Roget D. It was composed by the whom? Roget D. Isley. And now the national anthem of France is a Marseillaise. Yes. And later what happened? The Jacobin Club played an important role in the establishment of a republic in France. Yes, the Jacobin Club. Then who is the leader of Jacobin Club? Maximilian Robespierre. Yes. The Jacobin Club members mainly belongs to a less prosperous section of the society, which it includes shopkeepers, artisans, shoemakers, pastry cooks, then printers, watch repairers, as well as servants and daily wages workers. Yes, and the leader of Jacobin Club was Maximilian Robespierre, and a large group, yes, among the Jacobins, they began to wear or they decided to wear a long stripped trouser. Yes, and later these Jacobins came to be known as what? Jacobins came to be known as a sans-culottes. Yes, then what is mean sans-culottes? Sans-culottes literally mean those without knee breeches. Means up to full, they began to wear what? A trouser, stripped trouser. And in addition, what happened here? The sans-culottes men's were in addition allowed to wear the red cap, which it symbolizes liberty, and women were not allowed to do so. Yes, and finally on 10th August what happened? They attacked or they stormed into the palace of Tuileries and they killed the king's guard or massacred the king's guard and held king himself a hostage for several hours or 7 hours. Yes, several hours, and later the National Assembly decided to vote imprison the royal family and elections were conducted. From now, yes, what happened? The men or all the men of 21 years and above, regardless of wealth, got a right to vote. And finally, the newly elected assembly was called a convention. Convention means what? Meeting. Yes, they called a meeting. Yes, on 21st September 1792, they abolished the monarchy and declared France as a what? A republic. Then what is republic? Republic is a form of a government which is elected by the whom? Elected by the peoples. And next, Louis XVI sentenced to an death by the court due to the charge of treason. Yes, due to the charge of treason. And on 21st January 1793, he was executed publicly. Who? Louis XVI at the place of De la Concord. This place name is the most important. Try to keep in your mind. Yes, he was sentenced to a death at the place of where? De la Concord. And later his wife or his princess Mary Antoinette also, she too passed away. Yes. So how they abolishes the monarchy and established or becomes a republic. The next reign of terror, the period between 1793 to 94. Yes, the period between 1793 to 94 is referred as a what? Reign of terror. Why it is referred as a? Why it was referred as a reign of terror? Because Maximilien Robespierre, yes, Maximilien Robespierre followed the severe policy of control and punishment, and those whom he saw enemies of the republic like clergy, nobles, members of the other political parties, and even his own political party. Yes, those who did not agree with his rule or methods, they were arrested, imprisoned, and they were sent to the where? They were sent to the guillotine. Yes. Then what is this guillotine? Guillotine is a device. Yes, guillotine is a device consisting of two poles and a blade. Two poles and a blade with which a person is beheaded. Yes, with which a person is beheaded, and later it was named as a what? Dr. Guillotine, who invented it. And Maximilien Robespierre forced the peasants to supply their goods to the cities and sell it at a price fixed by the whom? Government. Yes, but all the members of the or all the peoples of the France required a pain d'égalité, means equality of bread. Yes, not only, yes, instead of traditional monsieurs, madame, and citoyens. Citoyens means citizens of France. Everyone required a equality of bread, and later the churches were, yes, these churches were shut down, and their buildings were converted into an barracks or offices. And Maximilien Robespierre pursued his policies very relentlessly or mercilessly on the people, and even the supporter of his party were also demanded moderation. Yes. And finally, Maximilien Robespierre sentenced to a death on July 1794 by the court. On the next day, he was sent to the where? He was sent to the guillotine. And later, the most important person who played an important role, yes, only for a few years or the few days. Yes, who was he? Napoleon Bonaparte. Yes, Napoleon Bonaparte. And we will continue this part in the next class. I hope everyone understood. Yes, clear? Thank you.